All right, gentlemen, I think we are ready for our first live stream of Wednesdays. So I think I want to give everybody who joins us tonight a big, hearty Boomer Sooner. Welcome, everyone, to the OUFlagGuys Wednesday night pregame live streams. We don't have a game yet, but we're wanting to really kick off stuff early going into the season. So tonight, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Swiggy, who you've seen before, guests with me and Sean on Sundays, and Gavin from the previous pregame shows. You've seen Gavin from last season. So, everybody, again, we are officially 31 days from kickoff from the actual OU's first game against UTEP. For now, these shows are going to be a little bit shorter again until we get to like the first actual week of pregame, as most of the content I have planned for myself and my co-host it's kind of all together on that first week. Now, that being said, I wanted to do a little bit different than versus like what Sean and I had. So we're going to kind of start kind of fun. So Swiggy, Gavin, I've got a wonderful question of the day for you to get us all started off.
Okay,
and whoever wants this, perfect. So for all of y'all watching, they don't know what this question is going to be. I wanted this to be a complete surprise. And going forward, they will not know what any of the questions are for it because I want their instant reaction. I don't want them to think on it. So, Swiggy, Gavin, your question of the day is, would you rather start and win the national championship game but never get drafted, or would you rather be drafted number 1 overall but never win a national championship? In short, would you rather be Stetson Bennett or Kyler Murray at this point? Whoever wants to jump in, same thing with the chat, throw your answers in there, and I'll answer last.
I'd rather be Kyler.
Really? Why so?
I mean, that's a lot of money, and NFL careers are the worst place to be.
That's fair. Gavin, what answer do you got for me, buddy?
I would say I would go the Stetson Bennett route.
Really? We got two different ones. Why your reasoning for Stetson Bennett?
Okay, my reason for Stetson Bennett is because I have always looked at it as more as a team aspect, that no one individual is much more than a team, and that you basically utilize yourselves on an individual skill, alone talent. Now, even though it might get you to where you can probably lead up to being a bust at that point, I think if anything, it's all about being into that team mind concept more than anything, that you use your skills to get you to where you're further down the road. That's my sort of way of thinking about it.
Which is a fair way to think about it, because really it comes down to, what are you more invested in? Are you going into the football to finally make it into the NFL, or are you going in for like really just the passion, if you're a legacy player, for the love of the game, that type of deal? And that's going to vary from person to person, no different than varying from like high school football type of deal with it. So me personally, it's hard, because if I had to pick one, there's reason. Both of you gave wonderful reasons, because you take the Kyler Murray route, you're set for life and you're set for your parents. If you take the Stetson Bennett route, you're like set for life with money, or you're set to have any drink you want in life. So it's very difficult for me to pick. I think probably if I had to pick one, however, it pains me to say it. I gotta go the Stetson Bennett route. The sole reason is, even though you're going in undrafted, it doesn't mean you can't get drafted.
That's fair.
It's too much pride. That's just me personally. I'd rather have the state pride with it versus the NFL.
I'd just chill out, play Call of Duty all weekend during film study, and get paid.
And that's fair. That's absolutely fair. Justin, I want everybody else to welcome our other co-host on the Wednesday nights, Justin. How are you doing, buddy, tonight? And I've asked Swiggy and Gavin this question as well, so I want your input as well. We're going to have questions of the day starting off the live streams. So I'm going to give you the question. You don't know the question at all. Going forward, you will not know the question. Would you rather, win a national start and win the national championship game, but never get drafted, or be drafted number 1 overall, but never win a national championship game? In short, would you rather be Kyler Murray or Stetson Bennett?
Probably probably be the number 1 overall pick.
Really? Why so?
For guaranteed money for one thing, and say that you're coming out of college early, but you do want to graduate later on. You can always do that during the off season. But I can see the argument for want to win a national championship, especially if you've been to school for a couple of years. It really depends on the situation, but get to the given player.
Absolutely. It also varies too. Like if you look at it as you can always join the NFL at some point. You can't always just go backwards to college at that point too. So it's like, what are you more passionate for at that point? But there's no wrong answer. It's a very difficult question for it. There's also no telling, like if you go into the NFL and you got injured, well, your career's done. Doesn't say that. No different than the other one. So
right.
Yeah,
guys, I want to thank y'all for answering the question. So before we're going to go into the first segment. So before each segment, I'm usually going to give basically a very brief recap of the previous week's game, as well as just our initial reactions to the AP poll and the playoff rankings. Y'all know in the live streams, but if you want instant reactions from that, be sure to check out not only mine and Sean's channels for pre and post game reactions, but also to check out the Sunday night post games. For those of you that are new here, those are Sunday nights as well at 8:00 p.m. Central Standard Time, same as the Wednesdays ones. But since we don't have a game yet to recap, we're going to jump right into the first segment. So the first segment, guys, is for our next 20, 25-ish minutes. Let's kind of talk about last season for OU, as well as like the off season as a whole. So I'm going to start off. Let's admit it. The last season, I think one word to describe it is a complete disappointment. We underachieved. We did not make it to the playoff. We didn't win the Big 12. We could argue day and night, should we have been there with Oklahoma State? We could argue day and night, was Lincoln Riley's foot out the door? But in the day, we did not make it, and it was playoff or bust. What do y'all think for like kind of looking at the season as a whole?
To quote from the OU Daily, it was like the Trojan horse was basically inside the program. That's one way to describe it.
I don't disagree with you. It was a letdown. Gavin, do you agree that the red flags for last season were immediate, like probably at the beginning of the Tulane game? And we tried to write it off, but as it became more apparent, especially by the end of the season, and us 7 months removed at this point, yeah, Riley was probably already talking to USC by the time the season was already done, if not by September.
I think, if anything, the Tulane game, and a lot of us were optimistic at this point because it was the first game, and there was also circumstances I thought that was going into it because Tulane was not playing in their home stadium because hurricane was going on at that point, so it was almost like one of those story book deals or anything else though too. So I thought it was just because of a lot of changes that were going on. That was my first initial reaction with all that was happening. But when you got to Nebraska, that's when you started to see a bit of the flags start going up.
Absolutely.
I would say Nebraska was definitely the biggest red flag more than anything, and it just took a lot of individual plays that happened. DJ Graham with that interception, which I don't agree he should have intercepted it, but it was still a hell of a play that he did. And then it was like they were basically rallying within themselves more than anything. That's kind of where it was basically at that point. So I think if anything, it was everything that was trying to cut together. And then, and then all of a sudden when we get to Texas, down 28-7 at that first quarter, it was like, yeah, there's something not right. Yeah, even though we came back, it was still not satisfied. So it was like, plug out the old quarterback, plug in the new toy, and it, and it was like, okay, things were starting to go right. But then it was like November was just probably one of the worst Novembers I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah,
absolutely. And to be fair, Gavin, Andrew mentioned this last year for it, where I think it was a week before Texas, Andrew, where you mentioned if they switch to Caleb, it's game over. You have to stick with Caleb at that point. There is no going backwards.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was no going backwards. I mean, just looking at it, I mean, looking back at last season, Nebraska didn't worry me as much. That was a big hit because we didn't know how bad Nebraska was yet. It was a rivalry game. First time we've played in a while. The game that the game that got me worried next week when we played West Virginia, because there was really no excuse. It wasn't a noon game. It was under the lights. And we needed our field goal kicker to beat West Virginia. I mean, when you're only putting up 16 points against West Virginia, something is off and something is wrong.
Did you think it was maybe something where it was they were just off that night? Because I'll be honest, and it's going to surprise the chat, I actually didn't watch that game because I was at a wedding in Tennessee for one of my best friends at that point, and I was a groomsman in his wedding. I wasn't going to miss out on something like
which
that.
game was it?
Yeah.
West Virginia.
That's what I thought you, Justin.
That's the one y'all lost.
No,
we
we
won that
won.
one.
Y'all didn't look that good.
Yeah.
We
That was
looked
the
like,
one.
we
Yeah,
looked like trash.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Y'all looked like crap, but y'all survived.
That was the one where That was the one where
I remember
the
watching.
crowd
Okay, I
booed
remember watching
Rattler.
that.
The crowd booed Rattler, and
Yeah, that's right.
wrong.
They did boom.
Yeah,
Yeah, they weren't
Rattle was
wrong.
not good. Rattle was not good.
No, he was not.
No.
No, he wasn't. I saw
Yeah.
only the highlights at this point. I've actually never gone back and watched it. I just don't have a desire to. But then again,
No, I wouldn't.
Well,
I have
I
to tell y'all,
wouldn't
it was funny. When I was at the wedding, it was during the reception was when the game was going on, and the groom comes over and he puts his arm around me. He went, "All right, time to earn your keep. What's the score?" I'm like, "Really? Is this really why I'm here? Is to tell you the score?" He's like, "Well, who else is going to be keeping up with it?" And it was funny because he was starting to go back and forth, and we were looking at the score. Me and my buddy Chad, who's been on the live stream before, and he's like, "Bro, if we lose this, we're never going to hear the end of it." I'm like, "It could be worse, but it just could be one of those off nights." Luckily, it wasn't, but we cracked the joke too. If we would have lost, that is a bad sign for our roommate who just got married. Just saying now. So
I'm gonna say, but then the Kansas game happened.
Oh,
Correct.
don't get
Correct.
me started.
Well,
What the y'all want to tell me what the crap that was?
well, we
At
had
least we're in
Texas
Texas.
first. We had Texas first
Yeah.
from it because we went to Texas.
Texas lost to them. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Texas. Well, let me ask you at the
Texas
beginning
lost.
of the season, Justin, because for all of y'all who do not know, Justin is not an OU fan. I know
Gas.
not everybody's perfect, but
Yep.
I'm a general college football fan.
which is
That's
fair.
fine.
But you root for Memphis and stuff too, though.
Yeah, because they're the home team.
Yep, which is fair. Justin, though,
Yep.
from the beginning of the season, though, for you specifically, what was it going through your mind with looking at OU in that respect? Like, were you disappointed? Were you surprised? Like, were you wondering what is going on in Norman? Like, or was it expectations?
What are y'all doing? I was like, what is it y'all are trying to be? It seems like every time I watch y'all either killing somebody or y'all are in a game with somebody y'all should be beating the crap out of.
Exactly. And that's what we thought too. But then we thought our defense would have been, or our offense would have been better, and they were stagnant. Now, according to some media days, apparently here today, I think it was today or this week, that the players said they were not getting coached and that a lot of the star players were being coddled, essentially. That, if they made a mistake, we can't criticize them because they're starters. Well, it showed on the field if that's the case.
Okay, who's y'all starter? Didn't Rattler transfer?
Rattler
Rattler
transferred, Caleb transferred, and now we have Dylan Gabriel from UCF.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What? Well. Wasn't it Utah he went to for a week? Wasn't he committed to Utah? It was one of them.
Let me maybe Arizona.
I was about to guess. Did he go to Oregon? But that's not Auburn guy. Never mind. That's Bo. That was Bo Nix.
Yeah, that was UCLA. Yeah, that was
UCLA.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we hit the Texas game at that point, and the Texas game, we thought the lights finally turned on in the last 16 minutes of the game because that team was what we expected. And then we traveled to Kansas, and that basically Caleb had to do a football move that, to his credit, I don't care what anybody says for it. Caleb's a smart football player. Anybody who says otherwise, no, he is regardless of him transferring, he is a smart football player. He had to make a smart move against Kansas for us to win and avoid being the next. Did you know that OU lost to Kansas in football? We don't want that. We barely avoided that. I can't tell you how humiliating it is being in that stadium, having them in the fourth quarter go, everybody get in here because we're about to have an upset. Just saying. So we reached roughly the second third of the season. What were y'all thinking at this point of, at some point we're going to drop one? Did you think Caleb was going to save us? What are you thinking?
I was of the opinion that we were going to drop Baylor.
Yeah.
I mean, I was hopeful. I'm always hopeful, but like at Baylor, and here's the thing about Caleb. Caleb played really well. We don't beat Texas without him. He was good, but I'm not going to pretend he was the Heisman level all throughout the season. All throughout his starts and his plays. Don't get me wrong, he had some great moments. Looked good against TCU, Tech. He lit up, but Baylor, Oklahoma State, he wasn't great. We barely escaped Iowa State. So like when he faced, some stiffer competition, I'm just saying, don't put the Heisman on a shelf yet for next year.
I think everyone took a step back because of Radler taking a step back. Let's be honest. That being, Gavin, what do you got in that second half or the second quarter of this or third of the season?
I would say, I think if anything, it was like, I mean, we've already talked about the consistency, and it was kind of like starting with Radler. I kind of look at where everything was at. And there was one thing I will mention about the Kansas game. I mean, kind of going back, and I was thinking about like the time of possession, I remember they ate up like so much clock, in that game. It was just basically like, it was like basically the best way to, to basically stop OU at their tracks, because, you can't really score or anything if your offense is on the sideline. I thought if anything, Kansas was just kind of playing with sort of in that sort of route. If anything, that was just kind of what my first issues was with that. But then, like as we kind of get further down, going into like, looking at TCU, I think TCU was probably maybe one of the better games. I would say that they probably played almost as a complete unit in a sense, other than Kansas State. But of course, they got that what's that receiver's name over at TCU? He's back this year. Oh shoot! Yeah,
but TCU also has a brand new coach too, which is going to change everything as well.
I was just talking about. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like the TCU player for last year, that wide receiver who burned like nearly 200 yards of receiving yardage.
Because they couldn't stop him. Yeah,
he
basically. Go ahead.
Yeah, they were.
I was going to say, is that the game that
our pass
Andrew,
defense?
Did you and I go to that game for it?
Yeah, we went to that game. Do you mean Quentin Johnston?
Yep. See, and that's the thing. We never felt that we were going to lose that game, but it never felt we actually put it away. I'd say the game you and I went to, Gavin, the Tech game, that's the only game really, in my opinion, that felt like a complete game.
Yeah, Tech was more complete. You and I were actually there at that game, and I think that was probably maybe the most complete game we've saw in that season. And I think that was when they absolutely peak and then just basically bottom out. And I will say this, and I've seen this over the last few years. I felt like over the years, Lincoln Riley's teams are always more about playing with finesse than it is with like actual like dominating down the trench, down their throats. And that's just kind of where I felt like it just didn't have that sort of mental toughness or that anger, that we've seen like, in years past.
He plays to survive.
Yeah.
He played to survive.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, if you look at some of the other teams that are like outside with OU, I mean, if you think about like, and I'm kind of looking into the SEC, within like Bama, Georgia, those teams in the SEC, they have those basically, that power that's got like going to get you inside the trenches, and they play, mean, dirty football, to run it down your throats.
Yeah.
And honestly, you can't do that, if you're just going to just rely on finesse. I mean, I'm sorry, we're not the Pac-12 for a reason.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we kind of I think, Gavin, you and I mentioned it at the beginning of last season as well, where we said that the red flags were where that Riley is not really developing these players, as well as we're not seeing him actually playing to win. He's basically first 2 quarters and all right, I'm getting ready for the next game. You still got 2 quarters to play, and you almost lost a couple of them, which going to the final third of the season, we saw that catch up to us with Baylor and Oklahoma State. Now, I think we could have beaten Oklahoma State. I think there was a lot of refs calling some stuff on that at this point, but don't put yourself in that position to lose. And the rails just finally came off at that point, and it was what it was.
I think if anything, and it was like, you can maybe point a few calls here and there, but my biggest frustration of that game was 2 players. Okay, one of them was the Presley. He decides to basically try and field a punt inside that his own 5-yard line. And OU basically scoops it up and scores a touchdown on that. And then Eric Gray, I think does it in the next quarter, same spot in that end zone and everything, and muffs the punt inside there. So if there's anything I would say, one thing I'm going to ask, why are we fielding punts that are inside the 5-yard line?
Because they weren't coached.
I'm sorry, but that is one of the most idiotic things. If it's inside your own 10, okay, if you're inside your own 10, you should not be fielding the punt at all. Period. End of discussion. I would rather deal with trying to at least get a few yards, and try and work from something than basically muffing a punt and then having them a chance to score.
Correct. And I feel that's also part of it too, that our players just couldn't keep their mouths shut with it. And the discipline definitely played a part of it. Justin, from the outside looking in from it, how did you see the team as a whole at that point when they lost to Oklahoma State with it? Did you see, this was expected? Were you in with a lot of fans where they were like, at some point OU can't keep getting away with it, they're going to lose a game?
Yeah, I do remember watching the end of that. Wasn't that a game that were y'all up or down by 2 touchdowns in 4th quarter?
We were up at one point.
We were up by 9.
Okay, yeah. I think both didn't both teams blow a lead?
They did.
Yes,
it was one of the shootouts. Yeah, but yeah, by any team, you can't really have those kind of habits, and like y'all said, that's going to come back to bite you, and it did in that game.
Correct, and it came down to, unfortunately, as Bob Stoops says, don't put yourself in that position to let the refs decide the game.
And like we talked about earlier, y'all got away with it against West Virginia.
Yeah, and against Kansas, and against Kansas, and all that. But I think it was just as we said at the beginning, it was a disappointment. It was a letdown, which we did not be prepared for 24 hours later when we kept hearing the rumors that our ex was flirting with LSU, and apparently, he was using LSU as leverage because his foot was out the door to go to USC. So that's how our beginning of the offseason started, and a lot of people started to get worried. Let's be honest, guys. We still have PTSD from the 90s, and we don't want to this is our first true active head coach search. We could go down in an instant and be exactly like Nebraska, Florida State. Luckily, Venables has connections here, and we found our savior. Hopefully, maybe we still have to prove it on the field.
Oh, yeah.
That time. But we were in the unknown. But now let's talk about kind of the offseason at this point, because the offseason hit. Recruiting has gone through the roof. Texas fans still cannot do math with it, and that we have less recruits than they do. I'm about to jump them. It's been a quiet offseason for OU outside of recruitment. Do you feel good about that? Do you feel uncomfortable? It seems like everything else is going chaotic because USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. Things may not be peachy over at USC with Lincoln Riley with some of the stuff. I guess my big question to y'all is, do you feel more comfortable than you did 8 months ago when Riley announced he was going to USC? And with that, keeping that in mind, do you think we're better off now versus when we had Lincoln Riley here?
I think we're better off, in my opinion, with Venables, because I think if anything, if you look back, when Bob Stoops was hired, he was always about discipline, always wanting to make sure his players gave it his absolute best. And it was like, I think if anything, he brings back that fire, that energy that OU has been needing for quite some time. If anything, I look at Lincoln Riley the last 3 or 4 years, and it's like how you put it, Josh. He was like the substitute teacher, who was just driving the bus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. He crashed the Corvette.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying he's not like a bad off bad at coaching or anything at all. I'm not saying that though. But it was like the way that if you're putting yourself in that sort of situation and everything, it was like he was just kind of only doing what he can to better himself off in the long run. That's exactly. Kind of where I kind of see it. Where Venables, he's going to be very heavily invested, within Norman, within the community, within the state, and making within those connections. I mean, if anything, Venables, has, I would say, more passion for what I've seen from any other coach, than I've seen in a long, long time. And that's saying something because, I mean, his intensity is so much that we need to make sure we have a, get back coach whenever we get ready for the season. I hope we have a get back coach at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you've given confidence though, that you feel better off now because we didn't know, we don't know what the hindsight is. It could be still a disaster. We still have to, at the end of the day, we still got to play the games, but it seems like you are more invested with Venables at this point and like the direction we're going versus what we had under Lincoln Riley. Because let's be honest, all three of you, let's be honest, there were questions starting at the beginning of last season of, is it time at least for Riley to get new coaches? Because what he's doing now is not working. Offensive coach.
Yeah, go on, Gavin.
Oh, I was going to say, I feel much more confident. And what's even better, too, is that, with Venables, playing against Alabama as a DC, and also you got Jeff Levy coming in from Ole Miss, got a lot of people that are within those connections that are deep in the SEC that have been through it already, and I think if anything, this is the perfect time to where they're using, some of the coaches that we have transitioning towards the SEC is going to make them better, further down the road.
Correct.
That's the way I see it, because if anything, this is much more of anything an upgrade. Now, I think if anything, Lincoln Riley was good, but and it's like how we say, we were just not at that from good to great. That's kind of where I think we did not have that extra 5-10% that we need out of that 90%.
Exactly. And that's what was it that he was quoted this week of saying he never felt like he could recruit to beat the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Clemsons during the playoff. And that you can't do that at Oklahoma when we look at Venables right now, who is exactly doing that. Again, you still got to play the games. Yeah. But he's literally bringing in better classes than I think we're even about to crack the top 5 at this point in composite score. Is it fair to say Riley's full of shit?
Yeah. And
I mean the biggest to me, the biggest indictment on Riley was basically as soon as the news broke, I wasn't even mad at him. I was just like, okay, whatever, this kind of sucks. Let's just go get a new coach.
I mean, yeah. I figure at one point, since he always had rumors surrounding him about him possibly going to the NFL, maybe y'all are better off just getting rid of him.
I mean, Justin, that's stuff was talked about on our very first live stream last year for the post game with you, Tulane. We were talking like, how much longer do we have with him? Because at some point, his on the field product, whether it was coaching, whether it's the players, whatever it is going to impact where he wants to go in the NFL to a point. When is he going to make that jump? And we always thought he was going to make that jump to the NFL. Turns around, he just went and did a lateral move. And in my opinion, he went from the castle to a cubicle. If you haven't seen where his office is, it's a cubicle. So, and I want to make it clear on this live stream, this one tonight, this is not a shitting on Lincoln Riley for 30 minutes at this point. It's the realistic situation of where we're at now. What is he going through? Are they having buyer's remorse from it? it's all part of the offseason because that's going to be the talking point all season is who's going to do better in their first year, Lincoln Riley or Venables. It's going to be true.
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot you can. There's a lot you can say about it. And I will say, just USC hasn't. And this is gonna sound kind of bad because it's one of those stats where if we take away the only good time we've had, of course the bad times look worse. But really and truly, other than Pete, other than Pete Carroll, USC hasn't done a lot of stuff lately. They haven't shown that they've been a serious football program in a while. So
let's add this in, Andrew, and we have about 5 minutes before we take our first timeout I'm building in timeouts, guys, for those watching live stream, just so I can get up and move around. It's hard sitting for like 30, 40 minutes, but I have some good stuff planned for in between segments. That being said, do you think Riley knew anything about USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten? Because I feel like he was completely blindsided by that as well.
I don't feel that he knew it all. I feel like they told him before the announcement because you're telling your coach before the announcement, but otherwise with him it was basically, and I feel like they just walked into his office one day and said, "Hey, by the way, no big deal. We're joining the Big Ten in 2 years, or in however many years it is, 2 years, I think it is."
Do you think that's going to hurt USC overall and UCLA since they're on the West Coast? Or is this going to benefit them since everyone will actually be watching their games during a central time zone? I'm serious. That's not a joke. What do you think?
The Big Ten football is so different from Pac-12 football. I have no real idea, just because we haven't seen. We just haven't seen anything. We haven't seen anything with them. It's just. Lincoln. We know Lincoln had issues with the Pac-12, not Pac-12, Big 12, and now he's going to a conference where. I was talking about this with one of my friends. I was talking about this with one of my friends last week. You're going to Ohio State's the big dog there. Can USC compete with Michigan? Can they compete with Michigan? Can they compete with Penn State? If the coach at Michigan State doesn't leave, Michigan State's going to be trouble for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions.
Although I would love to see how USC will defend with a fullback in the backfield. That's what I would love to see.
Rush 3, drop 8. Rush 3, drop 8. That's all I'm saying. Gotta get a t-shirt up
Yeah.
there. But at the end, though, go back to the question. Do you? I think, Andrew, you answered it. Gavin, do you feel better with where we're at now? How the offseason's gone, how recruiting has basically gone through. The roof is on fire, guys. Literally. Do you feel better? Do you feel like they're giving attention to the program much more? Like the fans feel more energized again? Do you feel better about it? Are you looking forward to this season?
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the season. And here's something, and this has never happened before, but there was if you guys remember, 70,000 plus to show up just for a spring game.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And yeah,
honestly, with how big y'all's fan base is, that sounds about right.
No,
well,
just to give some insight, we only do 30, 40 maybe.
But it's 70,000?
70,000 has never happened.
And for our practice?
It has never happened.
Yeah, it's never happened.
For a spring game.
The closest it's ever gotten to that point was the year that Baker returned for his senior season. It's never gotten that high.
Maybe it wasn't as big. Maybe it could have been about that big. But it sounds like y'all have some question marks going into this year.
Yeah, I think we have question marks going into this year with it, especially because at the end of the day, too, you have to look at it as much as Venables has recruiting, as much as he's changed the mindset. We saw media days where guys are beefing up and feeling much better than they did before. You still got to prove it on the field, and it's still the guys from last year. They're still going to probably revert to some bad habits that they had before from it. So, I mean, we just have to know. We'll know in like 31 days. So, that being said, Andrew, Gavin, Justin, any final thoughts for recapping last season, a little bit of the offseason? Don't forget to one more too, with our big deal with the SEC with Sooner Vision Plus now on ESPN. No more pay-per-view games. That to me is the biggest announcement.
And Josh,
Yay!
but Josh, the
Now
one
you
thing
just
you
gotta
have,
subscribe to ESPN Plus.
Exactly.
but Josh, the one thing you have to understand about the just saying about the spring game. There's nothing to do in Oklahoma apparently, other than the spring game.
Oh yeah, because OU doesn't have. Remember, OU doesn't have money. So I mean, how are we
No,
paying
we
for
don't.
this?
Yeah,
Going to the SEC, even though we just had record breaking. I remember recruiting's down. We don't have wide receivers. Like OU's going to be a top 40 class.
Oh yeah, top 50. Top 50 if we're lucky. Things are bleak
I
out
know,
there.
right? Like we're going to be the next Nebraska. Like Texas people really chirping, really
Yeah.
chirping. So guys, we're going to take our first.
Aren't they always?
Oh, they're more so with Arch Manning and Arch Annan. We're going to take our first quick timeout. So we'll take about like a 2-minute, 3-minute break. So when we come back, Gavin's going to give us some insight into some 6A-1 Oklahoma high school football. And then we're going to delve a little bit into like NFL because our first NFL game happens this week. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. So going into our first break, though, for any of y'all watching the live stream, what I've developed is for the first break segment, I'm going to give y'all some OU trivia, and I want to see if y'all can answer it. I tried to find stuff that is fun and actually really obscure, but not something like who wore this number or what's the OU's colors. I actually went and looked and have like a full list. I'm saving the really good ones for later on, but I'm still going to give y'all some OU trivia. So during these little breaks where I can get up, get a drink of water and stuff, y'all have that. So throw your answers in the comments. I think you're going to enjoy what I have planned for y'all. So see y'all here back in about 2, 3, 4 minutes. All right, and we are back from the break. Andrew, Gavin, did you know the answer to that trivia question?
I'll give myself half credit. I thought it was Texas sucks.
Yeah. Gavin, I think you've seen it with me in the student union for that. But did you know the answer? Gavin may
I
have
did not
stepped
know the
away.
answer,
Oh.
so
Hey, it's a little surprise for everybody. That's the type of the questions I'm going to be throwing at you guys for it, and it's just fun. It's fun seeing like the really obscure OU trivia that actually, you can literally walk into the student union, look under the schooner, and it's there. I thought it was F Miami. I forgot. Oh yeah, it was Miami sucks. So just not a lot of people know about that. So let's dive now right into our second segment. Gavin, new football year, new college season, but we're also getting brand new high school football. So let's kind of delve first into 6A-1 for about 15 minutes before we talk some NFL with Justin and Andrew as well. And Justin, I assume you didn't know the OU trivia one because that's at the student union, and you, Mr. Memphis fan.
Well, I'm not seeing the live stream, so the live stream chat. So,
Oh, well,
I probably wouldn't know anyway.
Well, it was what's written on the underside of the schooner at the student union it, and it was Miami sucks. So,
oddly specific.
OU has a long history with Miami. We probably would have won 2 more natties if it wasn't for Miami in the 80s. Miami's kind of one of those teams, along with Notre Dame, that OU that seems to be our Achilles heel. But Gavin, let's talk high school football. Give us some insight into some Oklahoma 6A-1 high school. What's going on?
Okay, so the biggest news that's going on to this year, Bixby, who has been in 6A2 for like the last 6 or 7 years, is finally moving up to 6A1. And that is such a huge deal because this is where, 6A2, I kind of consider it as like the smaller school, or like for folks that are not from outside of Oklahoma, kind of in the sense of the Big 12, but this is kind of where they're going from the Big 12 to the SEC, where they're with the bigger schools. And Bixby has won, I believe, 5, 6 state titles in a row, and they are actually on a 49-game winning streak right now. And it is probably like one of the most impressive streaks that is going on right now. But they have their first tough test they have, which will be on week 0, which will be, I think if I remember, it's either August 26th or August 27th. And they're going to be going up against OWASSAA, and they're going to be playing that at Chapman Stadium in downtown, right near at the University of Tulsa. And it's going to be pretty big because we've already got like some big names that are going out on that. Luke Haas, who is actually committed to Arkansas, he's actually, going to be playing that game against Cole Adams over in OWASSAA, who's committed to go over to Alabama. So, it's going to be pretty packed. And I think, if anything, it's going to be a very, one of the best matchups, I would say, to start the season off, on the right foot. And now, as far as from, I can tell you right now, 6A1 is probably going to stay dominant on the east side, and the way I look at it, the way I kind of see it right now, Jinx, Bixby, Broken Arrow, OWASSAA, and Tulsa Union, those are going to be, the main on for Class 6A1. And I'm looking at probably right now, it's either going to be Jinx, Bixby, or Union winning the state title this year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Gavin. Wasn't it too that? Wasn't it with Bixby as well? 2 questions with it. They broke the record for the longest streak when they won the state title. I want to say that I remember that. That they either tied it or they broke it.
They broke it.
Okay, and then the other one was with Bixby. Was that something that was long overdue that they needed to get bumped up?
Yeah, I felt like it was long overdue because they were just dominating in Division 2. And, and I'm not knocking down on the Division 2 schools, but, Bixby was just on its league of its own. I mean, it's basically on a suburb that's just like right outside of Tulsa. And they were just dominating on their performance. In fact, I actually remember one of the games, and it actually highlighted one of the other Presley kids who also committed to OSU. He actually had like 450 yards combined for both rushing and receiving yards and 5 touchdowns against Booker T. And it was just they were just another league above all of that.
Yeah.
I think if anything, it was long overdue, but it was just like the numbers just didn't get up there. But they've actually handled where they can actually hang with the big boys because they've beaten Jinx before and beaten Union before in non-district games, and still gone on, to basically be on this long winning streak.
Mm-hmm. So you said it was
So,
Jinx, Union, and Bixby, though, of who you predict to be in like the finals, essentially one of those 3 teams?
I would pretty much consider those 4 in my semifinals at this point.
Gotcha. Is it also too? There's just not a lot of they don't lose a lot of players this year as well to graduation or from last year, I guess.
No, there's not a whole lot that's being lost over, if anything. I mean, I know Union's kind of getting most of their players back. Jinx is, they've always reload, year in and year out. It's been, where they've won, I can't remember, but it's like they've won like 16 or 17 titles. And interesting fact, there hasn't been a team on the west side of the state that has won like the big, the top class division since 6A was formed, which was like back in 93 or 94. So it's always been dominated by the East year in and year out. It's always been talking about Jinx or Union, but now that Bixby's getting involved on it, Broken Arrow actually won in 2018. OSSAA did in 2019. So it's been a side where it's been mostly East side dominance over the years. And I just don't see that trend continuing to go down. I mean, if there was anybody from the west side, I would say to root for, I would probably say it would be Edmond Santa Fe at this point. Because I think that team has a, really good chance of making a threat and, throwing a wrench into anyone from the East.
Not Norman or Mustang or Westmore, because usually, if I recall, Westmore usually has a decent team.
Westmore has been struggling, and the problem is Westmore is going to be in that same district with Jinx, Bixby, and Broken Arrow. Mm-hmm. And they're also in the same district with Norman North. So I have a hard time seeing Westmore getting into the playoffs because of that district alone.
Which is fair. Who do you have for I think Crosstown Clash with Norman and Norman North?
Oh, I got to give it to North.
North has been kind of the better school for a while now.
Yeah, North has always been, I would say, they've been more in, I think if anything, North has always been pretty good between the two out of, I don't know how many years. But I just think Norman is just a better school overall whenever it comes to that, if anything. I just, not a knock on Norman, but it's just like Norman North just has like the athletes and the talent to do better than Norman does.
Yeah. Is there any reason why they're doing North can recruit better than Norman High School?
I don't know. And that could be a lot. That could be a lot of things. One of it could be just districting itself. And I will say, and it kind of goes into a lot of issues, where, and I'm not familiar because I live on the east side where I'm familiar with all the Tulsa areas. I'm not well forefront, coming onto the west side. But like, when you have like, and I'm just going to say this for example, and you probably can relate to this, like with Lawton, you have like 3 schools that are within that one town and everything.
Exactly.
Sometimes it can kind of hard to blur like who, where they can kind of go at, like with like Lawton MacArthur, Lawton Ike, or Lawton High, into that sort of deal. So it always kind of gets a little blurry, like whenever you get to districting wise on who play, where they can play football at. That's always been a big, question mark usually kind of going into that, and that's kind of something I've seen over the years.
Right, and that's also one of those things as well with the 6A-1 is I think all the better players are going over to the Tulsa area. Let's just be honest with it. I mean, there's not really a lot on the west side as well. I mean, you could say Westmore and you could say Edmond. That's kind of
Edmond Santa
it.
Fe.
Edmond Santa Fe, yeah. That's kind of it. Like Enid's not doing anything.
No.
Norman North's not really doing
Enid,
anything.
No, they're not. So, so I think if anything, and I gotta say, 6A-1, I think is going to be probably the toughest district, out of any of the other districts this year. Because you think about it, Jinx, Bixby, Broken Arrow, those three are going to get in the playoffs guaranteed. I just don't see them not being in the playoffs.
Yeah. But then there's also OWSSAA. You can't forget them.
OWSSAA's in District 2, so, they're in a different district in 6A-1. I mean, OWSSAA and so OWSSAA and Union will definitely be in it. So I think if anything, if you're in District 2, you should be considered lucky on that district because, I mean, you can probably say Mustang and Edmond Santa Fe will probably get in there as well. Now, do I think they might make a chance? There's all, you always have to play the game, but I just think it's still going to stay dominant with the east side. But going into that, talking about Bixby jumping up from 6A-2 to 6A-1, 6A-2 now is totally wide open now. And, there's been a few moves. Tahlequah, who's been in Class 5A for the last 10 years or so, is moving up from 5A to 6A-2, so they're getting bumped up. But from the look of it, I probably only see like a few teams that I think can maybe make, a good run. I mean, I see Stillwater, they have a good chance of doing it. They got Gage Gundy, coming back over at Stillwater. Booker T. Washington has always been a a strong powerhouse over there. But I think if anything, this might be one of probably the better years to where I think Choctaw would actually have a good chance of winning the state title this year. Really do see that.
For 6A-2?
6A-2, yes.
I mean, they did try to make a run last year for it, but I forgot where they landed at that point. So maybe?
Yeah, but yeah. So I think if anything, I think the three schools, I would keep an eye on 6A-2, Choctaw, Stillwater, and Booker T. Washington. Those three, I think, will definitely be the ones that I would guarantee they'll make the semis.
Absolutely. Gavin, thank you for the insight for high school because I want to save more of the 6A-2 for next week as well as we delve into the 5A because I do want to talk some NFL stuff at this point. So,
all right.
One prediction. Who's going to win 6A-1? Who do you think's going to win?
Okay. I mean, like I said, I think it's going to be either Jinx or Bixby. Those are the two. And I will say, if Bixby can get through, because this is the biggest thing, Bixby has to play against Jinx in week 10. And I think right now, that's going to be one of the big matchups. And I think if Bixby, and then I think they will probably meet further down the road. But I would probably have to give the slight edge to Bixby at this point.
All right.
So I think Bixby will continue their dominance. Now, will their win streak snap? That's hard for me to say because, if they can get through OWSSAA, then I think they can actually get through, going through their toughest parts of their schedule towards the end of the season.
Which makes sense, but we'll find out as we get closer because we'll know that before Big 12 championship stuff. But let's delve a little now into the NFL. Andrew, Justin, let's talk some NFL stuff. We saw a lot of moves around the NFL. I think the biggest one, let's kind of just dive into this one because I was thinking like we could talk a little bit of preseason, but then the big news dropped that Deshaun Watson had the NFL appealed his 6-game suspension. Andrew, you and I talked about it a little bit, and I think we were both on opposite spectrums, but I have to give it to you. You were right in the beginning of what the judge was going to rule.
Yeah.
Now that they're appealing, do you think he's going to get maybe up to 10 games? Is it going to be the entire season? Do you think the Players Association is going to say he needs to play until that injunction is done? Same with you, Justin. What are y'all thoughts on Deshaun Watson's suspension?
Honestly, and I'll just say this, at this point, I have no earthly clue because we're kind of in uncharted waters here because this process is new for the NFL, bringing a federal judge in to arbitrate and then one of the sides appealing. I'll say this. Honestly, I just don't know. We've seen it depends where it lands. It depends on the judge. We've seen some judges, like Ezekiel Elliott when he was going through his thing, go super back and forth. Where he can play, he can't play, he can play, he can't play.
I remember that because during that fantasy season, the people that had him were going insane.
I honestly have so. All I'm going to say is we're in uncharted waters. Federal stuff I don't exactly, and I don't know enough about the new process to know how it's going to work. Unfortunately, I mean, we know that the NFLPA is suing. The only thing I can really say, I feel like I said, I just don't know. It would not surprise me if, and I guess this is where it goes with this. I just don't know.
You don't know.
Nobody knows anything. Anyone who tells you they know anything is full of it. It kind of is what it is. I mean, the union and the NFL never actually coming up with any kind of good situation like Major League Baseball has really ended up killing him. And I think that the leaks are kind of killing him too, because it's kept the story going it's kept in the public's mind for the last month. And now it's just going to keep being there. And there's really no reason for it. I'm just going to, take Major League Baseball. When the Trevor Bauer stuff broke last year, he was put on leave. You didn't hear anything about it until he actually went to court. And then you didn't hear anything about it until Major League Baseball handed down their 2.5-year suspension on him. And I'll say this though, the only reason that was with Trevor Bauer, why he suspended as long as he was, he didn't work with the union or the league and decide to countersue his accuser.
Yeah.
So that's why he got 2.5 years. I fully believe if Bauer had gone along with the investigation, he'd be pitching again this season because they just come to an agreement. That hasn't happened. But like I said, I mean, Bauer had it. Here's just something. Bauer's appealing his suspension. His hearing started last month, and nobody even really heard about it. So one thing the NFL needs to do, they need to stop with the leaks. The PA needs to stop with the leaks. They've come from everyone. It's just keep it, that's the one downside of it. It's keeping this in everyone's mind for far longer than it really has to be. Honestly, because I can say this here. If the maximum penalty was a year and the union PA had worked and the union and the owners had agreed to it, it would be a year. Everything that's going on right now is based on precedent. Precedent has been 6 games, and right now we'll just have to wait and see what happens because I have no idea.
And that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's a topic. I mean, it's the big one for it because you and I both said like this is completely different from even a couple years ago because now both are at fault with it with like, oh, the NFL wanted more. Well, now the Players Association want less, but the NFL should have written the policy where the judge could have ruled like that. And then the Players Association shouldn't have given the power to Goodell at that point to be the deciding factor anyway. So they're both at fault on it. My thought is I think he's going to get 4 more games.
I could see 4 more. I could see 4 more
at this
games.
point, just to start appeasing for it, because I don't think it's going to be
Yeah.
the entire season.
I just think, if anything, I think, let's see, he hasn't played since what, 2019? Is that about right?
2020. He
Yeah.
played.
2020.
He played the 2020 season. Last season, he ended up not playing because last season was the last year he ended up not playing because he was looking for a trade from the Texans, which didn't happen because of everything. So,
Right.
I mean, I could definitely see, I mean, I, there was some thought too that the NFL and the PA might be trying to come to like an agreement or some kind of, basically work it out with one another so it doesn't get to this point. I mean, and that, that could definitely happen. That could in theory, that could in theory happen now because you could have a situation where the PA, where okay, they try to get to 6 games, they see the writing on the wall, and they just, I could definitely see. Let me put it this way: if the NFL offered 8 to 10 games, I could see him accepting it.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think the other thing too is that, and I think they were just going off, okay, kind of looking at it. I think that if anything, they were going like, did he violate, the conduct policy, and everything, which I think that was mostly what they were going based off, and just like on the president itself. And, I think if anything, they're just kind of going like what was already written down and everything. But I think because of the excruciating circumstances, the fact that he's not done this once, but like multiple times over and over again, that if anything, I think, there's a huge outlet, where people are saying, that there should be more added on to it.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I think the league, really needs to, it's like you guys said, I think the league really needs to, I think redefine, some of those policies and stuff like that, so that way this won't happen again in the future.
Oh yeah.
Also, how much did the Texans know about this?
They knew everything. There's no way they didn't know. I mean, look. The thing is, but this is what's going to happen when you have a union and you basically have a union and a ownership group who just don't see eye to eye on anything. There's no, there's no working together. There's no trust, and as soon as you lose that trust, that's it. It doesn't, nothing at this point is going to make it back. So, the entire point of this new process was trying to avoid going to court. Well, we're back. We're right back in court with it. But
right.
That's where we are, and we just have to wait and see. We just have to kind of wait and see how it goes with it. But hey, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you guys remember 2014, when there was, when all that stuff with like Ray Rice came out and everything.
Yeah.
It was, I'm not saying it's exactly on that same terms, but like once the footage and all that sort of stuff came out and more details started coming around, and basically to where now he's not even playing football anymore. I thought we were going to be getting close to that sort of level. I thought, if anything, because look, this is not, like, I know it's not the same thing though too, but like, but when you're doing it over and over again, in that circumstances, like where you done, how many times has he done it? Like over at least 25? Is that right?
Depends on my. He had 25 accusers. He settled with all but one. So I don't really. So yeah. So but as far as the NFL is concerned, they only care about 4 of them. Those are the only cases the NFL presented. So even though there's 24, because the NFL only went with 4, from a legal standpoint, they're only considering 4.
Wasn't there a former Sooner that got charged for assault? Was that Joe Mixon?
Yeah,
it was Mixon.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Mixon.
But
I want to say it was like they settled, but it was like the DA still pursued. I think that was what I remember. It's been a hot minute since I thought about the Mixon thing.
Well, actually, if I remember, hold on. I think if I remember this, they actually was like it was a misdemeanor assault because he did not strike first. He retaliated striking back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that so basically, and we actually do have a weird statute, and I actually just remember this. So basically, if you retaliate and everything, you know, instead of like calling the cops or something like that, you know, you can actually just be charged for like a misdemeanor assault or anything if you get punched or struck back, because it was supposed to be like a equal protection thing that they had going on at the time. So even though she struck him first and he struck back and everything, which I, you know, think if anything, and this is just a reminder for Sooner fans and for folks. He was supposed to start in 2014, but he got suspended for that 2014 season.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then he didn't come back until the following season. And that footage and everything was, you know, pretty much sealed for about, what was it, 2 years until it was released right before the Sugar Bowl in 2016.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was brought back up again. And that mostly it was the Ray Rice stuff when that was even more released for it at that point. I mean, we're going to see what happens with Deshaun Watson if he even starts a game this year. I mean, it's so up in the air now.
Yeah, it's
because it's basically you're fighting the PR. The PR right now is the court of public opinion is going to have it where how much are they going to risk their money for it? And to me, they're looking at the Disney model. Disney does not want to rock the ship or rock the boat with it. I think they're going to do the same thing, but I think it's going to be 10 games. But I don't even think that's going to be outrage. I think it's going to be we don't care if it's acquitted. We don't care this. It's going to be a full season suspension. I think that's what people are wanting on it. Now, whether they get that,
no, I don't think.
I don't think we. That's what I want. But I don't think we'll get that.
What do you think he would get, Justin?
At most, like y'all said, the 10 games at most.
You think 10 games? Do you think the NFL is going to go, well, we tried, guys, but this is what this is legally what we can do?
Probably because of the way the NFLPA is set up, their hands are kind of tied at that point.
If the federal judge had given Deshaun Watson, I'd say 8 or 10 games, I don't think the NFL would have appealed. Because I think I honestly think at that point they could have thrown their hands up in the air saying, hey, we tried for a season-long indefinite suspension. This is what she said. And that's what we're sticking with for right now.
Yeah.
It's, it goes how it goes. It goes how it goes. There's just not really going to be any
random topic, but how about an interesting career it's been for Mr. Jacoby Brissett? He started out being like, I think he backed up either Brady or Garoppolo in New England. Then he went to back up at Drew Lock. Then he started. Then he was Tua's backup, and now he's going to be Watson's back. He's going to start a couple of games.
It's not. I mean, Brissett's definitely starting. It's. Ironically, he ended up starting a few games during the Brady suspension. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's when he started doing the Deflategate.
Yeah. Hey, but looking at it now, you know. But moving on to something, man. I'm just gonna bring this up really quick. Just moving on, so we don't end on like a too bad note here. Although it might be bad for some people. So the Cowboys only have one wide receiver right now who's caught a touchdown in his career. CeeDee Lamb.
Oh yeah, that kind of screwed with losing to James Washington.
Yeah. And Amari Cooper. Can't go 8-8 without losing 8. Oh, let's actually we'll keep that topic open. Let's go to our timeout for just a sec for it, and when we come back, I'm going to open the room up for everybody, for anybody who wants to hop in and talk with us. But otherwise, we'll continue chatting about the NFL from it and kind of just go from there. So we'll see everybody here in about it's 9:11. We'll say about 9:14, 9:15. 11. We'll see everyone in just a sec. All right, we had a nice little short break on that. We had in between. I threw up the schedule for y'all. I know the Iowa State date is wrong, but I pulled that from the official Sooner Sports website when they had the nice graphic. So in our usual second segment, what I have planned is a lot of guests to come on and talk about stuff related to Sooner stuff or stuff about OU tradition or anything along those lines. And usually the second break will be like my fantasy football league, seeing their league stuff as well as their pick'ems and all that as well with it. Usually the third segment, guys, is going to be all about high school football as well as anything NFL related at that point. And then we'll break and then we go into like our picks for the week and everything to wrap up before the game on Saturday. But that being said, since it is still a slow week, we're just going to continue our talks with NFL. And anybody who wants to hop in with us for about 15 minutes, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to post it in the chat. I'll probably limit it to like 2 or 3 people at a time with us just so we have everything pre-organized. If people want to hop in with us, just remember you got to have something like a headset or a mic so we don't get a lot of feedback as best as you can. So that being said, throw that back in. Let's wrap up the night, guys, with more NFL talk. As you were saying with the wide receivers, Dallas has problems.
Dallas has big problems, and Dallas is in such a weird position where it's like I think Dak is a top of the line quarterback. I think so much can go right for Dallas, but man, they just have so many issues. Even just coming into just looking at it. I mean, they're just looking at their offenses. Mike McCarthy is not a smart head coach. He's just not.
Have we reached the point where are we like the WWE at this point where in order for the Dallas Cowboys to succeed, Jerry Jones has to release the reins to somebody else?
Well,
maybe
yeah,
to his son.
I think so.
Yeah, the biggest problem with the Dallas Cowboys, and it's been the case for years, is Jerry Jones's ego.
Yeah,
Stephen Jones isn't much better, but
like father like son though.
Yeah.
Correct, but that's also to the flip side of it, though. Like you said, Justin, was at least his son knows who to actually draft versus I think it was Dallas who wanted Johnny Manziel, and his son's like, no, do not draft Johnny. Like, we need to go another direction. We need defensive guys. We needed other guys for it. So, like, yeah. Well, what are you looking forward to in the NFL this week, Justin? Or this season, Justin?
I'm mainly looking forward to see how the AFC West is going to turn out because all 4 teams, I feel like, are at least going to be at least a few games above 500. This is definitely pillow fight. Yeah, this is definitely going to be the best division, the AFC West has been since Patrick Mahomes got drafted.
Yeah.
He don't have a safety. He doesn't have one of the safety blankets anymore. And Tyreek Hill, I mean, yes, so that's Kelsey, and he actually has some more weapons now, getting MVS and Juju. But it's going to be a lot tougher for him this time around.
Yeah, it is going to be much tougher for him. What about you, Andrew? What are you looking forward to with the NFL this season?
Honestly, the same thing I look forward to every single season. Abject failure and idiocy from some team. I need memes. I need to laugh. That's
always the best part. That's always the best part.
Being a Browns fan, it's normally at my expense, so that's why I have to laugh at the New York Football Giants. I gotta laugh at the Lions. But on a positive side,
how about we all laugh at the Jets together?
That's just like picking that kid. I mean, honestly,
it's like laughing at the Knicks.
Honestly, I am really excited for the AFC West this year. I mean, here's the thing. Even though the eternal question is Derek Carr a good quarterback? When that's the worst quarterback in your division, you're setting yourself up for so many great divisional games that year. Herbert, someone's gonna get hurt eventually, and it's gonna kind of put a damper on it. But Mahomes, Herbert, Carr, and Russell Wilson, all in that same division.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a beat 'em up. It's just I don't know who survives that division.
Yeah, I don't know either because we know what Mahomes can do. He's got to 2 Super Bowls and all that, and obviously we know what Russell Wilson brings, and Justin Herbert's only going to get better. You would think.
Well, maybe.
You would think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the assumption. It's just guys don't always move in that linear pattern like you'd like. But
Do you see?
I think he will. I'm just saying
They were one
watch out
botched
for it.
timeout. They were one unnecessary timeout away from being in the playoffs last year.
They were.
Yeah.
That was fun. Oh yeah, that was funny.
God damn it, Brandon Staley.
Do you see anybody drafted this year from this year's draft that's going to make an impact?
Let's see. I mean, a lot of people probably will. It's never, because quarterbacks weren't taken super fast this year. It's not going to be as noticeable. But I mean, let's see here. I mean, I think Aiden Hutchinson on the Lions could definitely make some noise.
How did they end up with him and Jameson Williams?
Oh yeah,
They had a good draft.
Sometimes things just work out. I think Burks in Tennessee intrigues me. Of course. I mean, God, looking at the Texans draft, the Texans draft really makes me sad now after Mechie. After Mechie is out for the whole year.
Right. And their team that pretty much needed everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't a big fan. I'm not a big fan of Stingley Jr. I just think when your best season is before COVID started, man, that's asking a lot for it. I mean, that's for a guy who was the number 3 pick in the draft. That's just, maybe it works out great for them, but that just feels like such a reach. Otherwise, I mean, I think you're definitely going to see Evan Neal, who the Giants took, offensive tackle. That he just feels like someone who it's not a pick that a lot of people are going to highlight. You're not going to see him, you're not going to see a lot of mind-blowing stats from him because he's an offensive tackle. But there's one reason to believe in Saquon Barkley this year. It's because they have Neal now.
Yeah, somebody. He's to be O-line, right?
Yeah.
And they need a lot of things, but they need O-line help more than anything.
Exactly, and I think that's just like, I'm not a big believer in Saquon Barkley. I've never been. I thought he was drafted way too high by the Giants. If there's one reason to believe in him this year, if Neal is better, if that Georgia lineman Thomas ends up making a leap this season, I gotta tell you, I don't believe in the Giants because I don't believe in Daniel Jones, and you need a quarterback to survive. But at the very least, Saquon Barkley could put up a really good year, and the Giants could be a team that makes more noise than people think, because the NFC, they're not exactly tops this year. So,
you know how a lot of people probably have already said that about with the Miami Dolphins, that with how loaded they got this off season, they say this is probably Tua's last chance. But I feel the same way about Jalen Hurts.
I don't feel it's his last chance. I feel like it's a put up or shut up year for him.
That's
I
what
feel
I meant.
like it's not his last chance, because Hurts hasn't had the same injury history that Tua has. Where Tua's injury history is like legitimately bad, and I don't trust Tua this year. I don't trust Miami. They definitely they have the potential to be a top offense, but he's never made it through a season healthy. That just feels like it's such a tough ask for him, especially with Tyreek Hill coming in and saying things like, "Oh, Tua's the best passer I've ever seen," and etc. Yada yada yada. It might be true. It might work out. But man, that's such a lot of pressure.
Okay,
to put on a guy.
Who said that Tua is the best passer you ever threw to?
Tyreek Hill.
Wow. So he threw Shannon Mahomes.
Basically. And that's such a tough position.
That's such a dumb statement.
Exactly. It was a dumb statement, Tua doesn't need that. Tua really doesn't need that kind of pressure at this point in time, and it's just one of those. I hope things work out, but man,
Mahomes is the reason that you even got that big contract, you woman beater.
And kid, he abuses kid too,
and his kids, yeah,
but
Yikes.
yeah, exactly. But that's just where we are with Miami. Like a lot of New England, looking at the AFC East, Buffalo's not going to, unless Allen goes down, Buffalo's not going to be bad. They're they're playoffs.
Playoffs.
We're talking about playoffs.
Sorry.
Jets are gonna be better. I like the Jets. Maybe not great, but I think with the Jets that there's at least the chance for a improvement. New England, I don't know what to make of Mac Jones. I like Mac. I don't hate it. I don't hate him. I don't hate what New England does with him. But Miami's such an Miami. The thing is, Miami and the Colts and the Browns. I'll throw the Browns in there too because we know what's going on with Watson. Those are such weird X factors in the AFC race this year. Because with the Browns, we don't know with Watson. We don't know what Mac Jones is going to be. And if Tua ends up missing time, who knows? And for the Colts, I mean, you're hoping Jonathan Taylor is still good, and you're hoping Matt Ryan is just good enough. And it might work out. I mean, Phillip Rivers worked out with them. So
I honestly have the Colts winning the AFC South, and I'm a Titans fan.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can 100% see that. It's one of those ones where the AFC South is such a weird division, because if you told me that Doug Peterson fixes Trevor Lawrence and all the stuff that Urban Meyer put the Jags through last year, and they win the South, yeah, I believe
Lord.
that.
That's so, gosh, that was a thing last year.
Honestly, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't take a leap this year, NFL draft Twitter is going to be in shambles forever and will never recover.
So basically every year.
Oh yeah,
every year.
Yeah, the Jaguars probably have my most hated person and all during the whole NBA whole free agency. His name is Mr. Trent Baalke. He's the one who gave her that damn contract. He's pretty much the reason why we lost AJ Brown. Because he wanted more than that.
Ugh.
Who do y'all have? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was done.
Oh, I was saying, who do you have for a Super Bowl then this year? I know that's 20-something plus weeks away, but who do you have favored? I'll put it that way to at least make it there.
In the NFC, just to be safe, I'll probably just say the Rams again.
Never count out touchdown Tom.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They're probably the team that'll be in their way and try to touch the Bucks.
I'll be boring and say Bucks Bills because I really think the Bills do it. The only reason they didn't make it last year was because their defense couldn't stop someone for 13 however many seconds it was.
Mm-hmm. I know it's always I think they would have won that game if they never lost Tre'Davious White. I really do.
They would have.
They've been some bad.
I'm believing in the Bills. They've been at the door the last couple of years, and I think Allen at this point, it just feels like Allen's too good not to get to one. That's not always how it works, but Allen's been having so many great run. I mean, Allen's having such a great quarterback run. I'd be shocked if he doesn't make it this year. And I mean, NFC, it's boring to say the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers but the Bucks have gotten better, and they have Tom Brady back. Although it's the NFL, it's all going to be about injuries, and we'll see. And that's all it's going to be about. So we'll just have
Yeah,
to see.
the AFC is just so wide open. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna randomly think of 3 teams I could think would be the biggest factor, and one just have like I have my eye on them in the rear view mirror. So like the 3 teams I'm thinking of are the Bills, the
Yep.
Chiefs, and the Bengals. And I'll say the team I have my eye on. Let me think.
The Bucks.
And the AFC.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, I'm actually really down the Bengals in the AFC just because I think they'll be good. They just feel like one of those. They just feel like a team that is going to like they were surprised Super Bowl. They had a surprise Super Bowl run, and those are hard to replicate. So I'm lower on the Bengals than most people are, but I'm also higher on the Ravens because I think, although I hate
the Ravens were the team I was thinking about saying I got my eye on them.
Yeah.
If they actually stay healthy.
If the Ravens didn't have, I'd be high on the Ravens if they didn't have probably the worst wide receiver room of possible contenders.
Which is fair.
And it was pretty shitty already when they had Hollywood Brown.
And now he's gone. Your best receiver is a tight end in Mark Andrews, who is great, but that doesn't make a receiver room. It's making it hard. It's gonna make it hard on Lamar. That's the only reason why I don't love the Ravens going into next year.
Yeah.
But like I said, the AFC is so wide open. Like if you told me, I was
gonna say the Broncos, but then I had to go lose Tim Patrick to their 20 ACL.
Yeah, it's AFC's weird. Anyone could do it, and it's all gonna be about injuries. So,
that's what it usually is every year. Is like even we know that with fantasy, is like this will be ideal if injuries for it. So,
if anything, the Bengals beat the Titans even though they sacked Joe Burrow 9 times. Hell, honestly, Joe Burrow didn't even win that game for him.
Right.
The Bengals.
It was their defense, and it was our defense and McPherson.
Yeah, and that's the one thing about both the Bengals and Ravens. Like both those teams rely so heavily on kickers, which that's good and bad. The Ravens have ended up coming through a lot of wins because they have a guy who can consistently make 50+ yard field goals. The Bengals may have that now. The Browns might actually have a kicker for the first time in like a decade with York. So we'll see what happens.
It's been long that that's the Titans had a kicker. At least it feels that way.
And who knows? Who knows at this point? So
let me go back
to the
let me go back to the NFC for a second because obviously I just did the safe pick of the Rams, but I think the team obviously going to keep my eye on the Bucks. I was going to keep my eye on. I'm not expecting a whole lot from him, but I can never count him out. But I'll at least keep an eye on the Packers because Aaron Rodgers is one of the quarterback that pulls that bullshit. And let me see. What do you think?
If Kyler studies this year, the Ravens could be good.
Yeah.
If Kyler studies, the Ravens, not the Ravens, the Cardinals. Yeah. I
feel like they can be good. It's just that I don't think to me, I just don't think they're going to ever reach our next level as long as Cliff Kingsbury's our coach.
That's how I see it. I always thought
he's not a good coach in my opinion.
I don't think so either.
He always starts hot and then he drops.
Y'all remember him? Y'all tell me y'all remember him at Texas Tech.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's not how he always been. He's always started hot, then he always drops. And in fact, that he basically started Baker, then basically benched him with
Mahomes.
I still don't even know how you even got the Cardinals job.
Yeah,
it's not
with
like
Mahomes. I kind.
because
Yeah.
he has the same thing that Lincoln Riley has, is
Well,
they
no,
see
no,
the
no.
offense,
Baker,
but then they're not seeing the defense.
Baker left and
Yeah, I'm about to
if
say
I'm not mistaken, didn't Baker leave around 2013 anyway?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Mahomes got there around what 2014 or so.
wait, Baker was at Texas Tech?
For a
Yeah,
hot
he was there
minute.
for a
Yes,
year.
he was.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
For-
So did he back up Mahomes?
He was supposed to be the starter, then he got injured, and then he was replaced. It wasn't Mahomes. Mahomes was the next year.
It was so weird because because I think Mahomes' rookie year he sat behind Alex Smith. Nobody really knew who he was.
I mean, but
Yeah.
yeah, because people mocked the Chiefs for taking that pick because it was it wasn't. I mean, you're essentially people thought that you're handicapping Alex. I mean, people thought that you were essentially handicapping Alex Smith in his last few years. But I mean, the plan was always to go to Mahomes. I mean, it worked out for Kansas City. I mean, NFC just has so many high variance teams. I don't know what to make of the NFC.
Yeah.
In the East, Hurts and the Eagles will probably be good, but there's no guarantee on that.
It was
will the Commanders be good? Who knows?
Yeah,
I think it was
God,
Davis
I'll never
Webb.
use it. I'm just gonna call them what UNH calls them, the Deadskins.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
I don't know, and I don't know if the 49ers can really repeat that run, especially if they're going to start Trey Lance because Garoppolo's still around.
I have man. Trey Lance is someone who I just don't know. I just have no clue on Lance going into the year. He's talking about a guy who barely threw the ball in high school. Barry had one season in college where he threw the ball, and now it's. Now you're expecting him to take a team that went to the NFC Championship game and keep going with that. That's that. I don't know. I don't know with Lance. I honestly don't. It's such a big ask with him, though.
And meanwhile, the other team in their division we haven't talked about is probably going to be the second worst team in the league.
Yeah. I mean,
the second worst team probably behind Atlanta.
So much rebuilding. Gentlemen, I want to thank y'all for joining me tonight. We're going to wrap it up. Thank y'all for discussing last season and this season, discussing NFL, high school football. And guess what? We're going to be back here same time, same place next week, where we're going to talk about kind of our expectations for the season. We're going to kind of give our season preview for OU and see what happens to them in the Big 12 and what our predictions is. Usually in this segment, guys, this is going to be where we would give our predictions for the games and have our pick'ems. But because we're not there yet, that's still kind of waiting down the line. So, but again, Gavin, Andrew, and Justin, I want to thank y'all for joining me this week. Everyone, thank you as joining as well for everybody who watched with us through the end of this particular live stream. Comment, rate, subscribe, and hit the notification bell up in the corner so you know when we go live. Remember, our next live stream is going to be Sunday with me and Sean, same time, 8 o'clock Central Pacific time. Again, be sure to watch the channel. I'll be uploading some videos and stuff as well, individual ones as we get closer to the season. I'll be giving like season preview stuff from my end of it, as well as just any particular extra content. That's all she wrote, guys, for this one. So again, Andrew, Gavin, Justin, thank you for joining me. Boomer Sooner, only one Oklahoma, and I will see each of y'all next week. Have a good one.
All right, take care.